Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you some of my favorite summer reads. We're in the height of summer right now. It is mid-July. It is stupidly hot. Thankfully I'm getting air conditioning soon, but I wanted to get into the kind of summer mood and share with you guys some of my favorite books to read in these summer months to try and give you guys some inspiration and add some books to your summer TBR. I've got 5 categories here that I'm going to be describing as my favorite types of books to read during the summertime. I've got some examples here, but they're not my all-time favorites necessarily, but it's just examples of genres I tend to gravitate towards during the months of summer. Some of them are like very apropos for the summer months, others are kind of wintry reads, but I tend to read them more in the summertime, so let's just get right into it. The first genre that I tend to go for in the summer months is a genre that I like to bring a lot of to my cottage when I go to the cottage, and I associate a lot of these books with books I should read at the cottage, and that's why I consider it to be like a summer read, but that's historical fiction. One of my favorite historical fiction writers is Philip Gregory. She writes a lot of historical fiction novels centered around the women of the English monarchy. This was the first Philip Gregory book I ever read, and it's The White Queen. It is about Elizabeth Woodville. She named the Henry VII, who was the first Tudor King of England. I really enjoyed this. I love her perspective. I love her interesting take on the British monarchy and how it has grown and evolved over the years. I like that she centers the women because more often than not, the women are not centered in these stories, and I just really like the creative liberties that she takes in order to write these stories. They really interest me. Next up is like a one-off favorite that I really enjoyed reading over the one summer when I was working at a factory for the summer, and that's Daughter of the Gods by Stephanie Thornton. The story centers around Hatshepsut, who was one of the first female pharaoh in Egyptian history. I'm obsessed with ancient Egypt. I always have been since I was a little kid, so finding a book centered around my favorite pharaoh, Hatshepsut, was really interesting and very exciting for me. And I loved this book. I don't know why, but it was fantastic. It was very romantic. It was very, I don't know, it gave a really good, interesting take on Hatshepsut's history, especially considering that this is ancient history and we don't have a ton of historical record for it. And obviously she took a lot of creative liberties. I'm not saying this is like a biography of Hatshepsut, but it was a very interesting take on my favorite pharaoh. And just the vibes of being in ancient Egypt were all there. It was great. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, anyway, this is just another one. Anyway, historical fiction is definitely what I tend to gravitate towards. So there's some recs there. Next up, I only have one example, but I love to reread some of my favorite middle grade novels in the summertime. I get super nostalgic around the summertime season, and it just makes me think of all the books that I read during summer breaks from school, and one of my favorites is obviously the Percy Jackson series, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. If you haven't heard of Percy Jackson, what are you doing with your life? This is a very beloved middle grade series centering around the children of the Greek gods. It's set in modern times. They become a modern day equivalent to an ancient Greek hero, and they have to battle monsters and gods in order to earn their parents' favor and rise through the ranks of Camp Half-Blood, a refuge for godly children. This is a really great series. It's a really great series about friendship and family, and found family specifically. And I love all the, again, references to ancient Greece. It's one of my favorite time periods to study, and it's just so fun and very nostalgic. And again, like the middle grade vibes. Middle grades in general just are so fast and fun to read that they make the perfect summer read, especially a great beach read, because you can probably read one in a day if you're laying on the beach all day, which is one of my favorite things to do. So absolutely adore middle grades in the summertime. Next up is some YA contemporary. Now, I used to hate YA contemporary. I vehemently avoided it at all costs. I really was not a fan until I started reading from one of these authors, and it just really solidified my enjoyment of contemporary YA in this time. Contemporary YA when I was a teenager, hell no, it was all Sarah Dessen and all that kind of stuff, and I used to enjoy it, but it's definitely not what it is today. Today, YA contemporary has taken on a new look and a new shape, and one that I really, really enjoy. The first one that I'll recommend for a great summer read, again, this is a really good read, I think, to take and try and do in one go on a beach or something, or by the pool or something, And That's the Sun is also starred by Nicola Yoon. The story takes place in New York City, and it follows two main characters, Natasha and Daniel. Natasha is a young black girl who's the child of Jamaican immigrants and who is fighting on this day to stop her family from being deported back to Jamaica. Daniel runs into her at one point during the day and challenges her that he can make her fall in love in one day. Daniel is a really adorable Korean American young man who's absolutely precious, and I love him to death. He's a huge romantic, and they end up spending the entire day together, and it was just a fantastic little read. It broke my heart, but it was really, really great. I loved it so much, and I think Nicola Yoon's writing was really perfect for it. It was a really fast-paced read, and again, it was something that I think would be a great addition to your like beach bag in the summertime. The other author that just screams summer to me, I don't know why, I don't think either of these books are actually set in summer, but that is Elizabeth Acevedo. So first off, I read With the Fire on High and then Clap When You Land. Both these stories are just absolutely gorgeous, and they just scream summer to me. With the Fire on High tells the story of Imani, who is a young teen mom who loves to cook. She is trying really hard to raise enough money to go on this special trip with her culinary class to Spain. Along the way, she meets this boy named Malachi who just wants to make her happy, and the two of them end up with this like budding romance. It was just adorable, and again, I don't know why it screams summer to me, but it just does. This tells the story of two girls, one in the Dominican Republic and one in New York City, who after a horrific plane crash that kills their father, they discover that they are siblings. They didn't even know of each other's existence until their father unfortunately dies in this plane crash. It's based on an actual plane crash that happened very shortly after 9/11 that didn't end up getting much news air because of the timing, unfortunately. And it was absolutely decimating to the Dominican population in Dominican Republic and New York. But the story's fantastic. It jumps back and forth between New York City and the Dominican Republic, and just again, this book is written in verse, which is kind of Elizabeth Acevedo's signature at this point. And it's just so whimsical and so beautifully written that I think, again, it would be a great summer read. Next up is the category of books that I think everybody was expecting when they came into this, and that is adult romance. I've really gotten into adult romance in the last year. It's one of my favorite new genres, which I never expected to say. But there are two examples here that I think would be specifically really great summer reads. The first one, very obviously, is Beach Read by Emily Henry. This one you probably expected, and it is a book that has been making the rounds on YouTube and just in the bookish community. This tells the story of a whirlwind summer between these two characters, January and Gus. Both are authors. January writes romance novels, and Gus is trying to write the next great American novel. The two of them are rivals in university, and when they end up realizing that they are spending their summers next door to each other at this beach town, they decide to challenge each other to write in each other's genre. This book was super fun, and I loved the beachy vibes. It was really great seeing this little bubble story that just takes place over one summer and goes through these characters really in depth. I loved January and Gus's romance. I loved their dynamic between the two of them with the enemies to lovers starting point, and then seeing them grow and learn about each other as the summer progresses. And then again, I love the writing element to it. I'm a writer myself, so again, reading books about writers is super fun. But like it says, beach read would be a great beach read. It would be really good to read in one go. I read it in one go, but I was not at the beach. But again, just all the summer vibes. Next up is a series that is nearly completed, and that is the Well Met series by Jen DeLuca. It starts with Well Met, and then there is Well Played. The third book, Well Matched, is coming out in October, I believe. Well Met takes place at a Renaissance fair that runs during the summer months in this tiny little town called Willow Creek. Well Met follows Emily, who is a new resident at Willow Creek, come to live with her sister after her sister has a horrible car accident and she has to help take care of her and her niece. She's realizing that she doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life. She's gotten out of a bad breakup that had taken over her entire life, and it ruined her chances of finishing her school and finding out what she really truly wants in her life. And that's what she's hoping to find when she comes to Willow Creek. Her niece decides she wants to take part in this annual huge town activity of the Renaissance Fair, which is run by Simon, who is the English teacher at the local high school, and whose older brother had started the Renaissance Fair, and it's become an institution in this town. Emily and Simon hate each other at first, and again, it just follows them throughout the entire summer as they learn about each other and learn what makes each other tick and how she starts to really enjoy the Ren Fair and starts to really find her place there. I love this series so much. It's adorable. The Renaissance Fair setting is so fantastic, and again, it is just a great summer read. These books are fantastic and I really love them. The second one, Well Played, tells the story of Stacy, who is Emily's first and best friend from when she comes into Willow Creek. Stacy has lived in Willow Creek her entire life. Renaissance Fair has been her entire summer, every single summer since she was a teenager, and she's trying to see if that is what she really wants from her life. Stacy feels like her life has kind of come into some kind of a rut and she wants to try and meet the one. She ends up reconnecting with a one-night stand that she had had with one of the bands that performs at the Renaissance Fair, and ends up going on this whirlwind kind of online romance in which they just text each other and email each other for an entire year before they finally meet. But he doesn't seem to be exactly who he seems. This one was also fantastic. I loved it. And the third one is coming out in October about Emily's older sister and one of my favorite characters, Mitch, who is featured in both of these. But these books, again, just they're set in the summertime, super quick reads, very fun, lighthearted reads, and I adore every one of them so badly. Finally, the last genre that I want to talk about that I am drawn towards more in the summertime is one that would typically be associated with winter reads, and that is thrillers and mysteries. I don't know why. I think it's because I've read a lot of thrillers and mysteries again at my lake at the cottage, and it's just associated with summer with me now. But I love reading thrillers in the summertime, and I just love, again, the fast-paced nature of thrillers, the kind of like low stakes that come with thrillers. Like, it's not like starting a massive series that you really need to like cozy up and spend a lot of time reading. They're very quick-paced. You can get through them fast. You don't have to worry about sequels or anything like that, typically. And again, they're great to read on the beach because you can fly through it in one go. So let me just show you a quick few of my recent favorite thrillers. The first is The Death of Mrs. Westaway by Ruth Ware. If you really liked Knives Out, the movie, and if you enjoy Agatha Christie mysteries, I think you'd really like this one. This tells the story of Harriet, who lives on the English coast and is a young tarot card reader. After the death of her mother, she ends up getting this letter saying that she has inherited a large sum of money from a Mrs. Westaway, who is, according to the letter, her grandmother. She's been asked to come to the family home for the reading of the wills and to accept her inheritance. However, she's very well aware that her grandmother is not this Mrs. Westaway woman, but she is very deep into debt and is desperate for a way out, so she ends up going to this estate and claiming the inheritance. She ends up engrossed in this family drama and is stuck in this massive house. It's very gothic, it's very bubble mystery, like Agatha Christie style, and I really enjoyed it. The vibes, again, of this house were just immaculate. It was super creepy and super atmospheric, and the mystery itself was really great because it went back and forth between Hal in like real time, and then also it goes back and forth with these like kind of like letters a little bit every few chapters of some of the family members of Mrs. Westaway. Again, super great. I love Ruth Ware's writing. This was my first Ruth Ware book that I've ever read. I read One by One a little bit earlier on this year, and I also really enjoyed it, so I'm excited to go back and read her backlist, but this one is definitely one that I would highly recommend. Next up is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. This was Alyssa Cole's first thriller. She is a primarily romance writer. I also really love her romances. This tells the story of Sydney Green, who is Brooklyn born and raised, who is dealing with the problem of gentrification of her neighborhood. This story is terrifying. It is really mysterious and really creepy. The little blurb at the top says Rear Window meets Get Out in this gripping thriller from a critically acclaimed and New York Times notable author, in which the gentrification of a Brooklyn neighborhood takes on a sinister new meaning, and that is definitely correct. This book had all of the actual creepy borderline horror vibes, but again, it was super fast paced. I was so sucked into the story. It takes place in summer again, and it was just, you could feel the like gritty, hot, and dirty vibes that were coming from this story, and it just was absolutely incredible. Finally, the last book that I'm going to recommend is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is probably my favorite mystery thriller that I've read in the last year and a half. This tells the story of Noemi, who is a young girl living in 1950s Mexico City. She gets a letter from her cousin, who is recently married an English like nobleman, I guess, a very rich Englishman who's got his own estate outside of Mexico City's borders, claiming that someone is trying to kill her. Noemi decides to go and spend some time at this estate with her cousin to try and get to the bottom of this, and it is a amazing take on Gothic horror, but set in a very different setting than you would normally expect. Instead of being in the English countryside, it is set in Mexico City, and it deals with a lot of really terrifying topics, including like eugenics and racism. It's super horrifying, and it was a really, really, really great read. Again, it was super quick, very fast paced. I was sucked into it right from the beginning and I didn't want to put it down, which again is my criteria for a great summer read. I really think everybody who is interested in thrillers should give this a go. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy it, please give it a like and let me know down in the comments below what your favorite summer read is. If you're new here, please subscribe. I put out new bookish and writing videos every week, and I hope you guys have a lovely day. Bye-bye.